Hi lovelies, and welcome back to my channel and welcome back to this reading for JFK. This is a really long overdue reading. It's one that I can't believe I actually haven't done yet. So I do hope you enjoy the reading. Please do hit a lovely thumbs up if you do. But let's get into reading for Mr. Kennedy, JFK, Jack, 35th President of the United States and the youngest ever President of the United States. Mr. JFK. Okay, so it's really interesting because one of the very first things that he makes me feel as I feel his energy is that he was a playboy, and it's really interesting that that would be the very first thing that comes through. But he is, and he was very charismatic, and he loved ladies and to woo ladies and to be charming. He was a very charming young man, and he brings me back to his childhood, and you know, this is something that was instilled in him to be this way. And if you don't know, JFK was one of 9 children. His father, Joseph Kennedy, was very much open about flirting with other women and being, well, I don't know if there was any infidelity in his marriage, but he was very much open about flirting with other women. And like when his sons would bring girlfriends home, he was very open about, you know, just being very flirtatious with them. And he really instilled in his children that they need to be the best, they need to be highly academic, they need to achieve very, very big and successful things. He was wanting to build a dynasty, and JFK kind of always felt in the shadows of his older brother, who sadly and tragically passed away. I believe he passed away in the war, and I don't want to talk about that briefly because, as you can see in the title of this video, I have said JFK and the Kennedy curse, and I'm interested about this Kennedy curse. Okay, there's not a ton of information about it out there. There is a lot of info from Kendall Ray, which is where I first heard about it, but some people believe basically that the Kennedys are cursed. The Kennedys are a massive family. Some people believe that it's just coincidence. There's so many of them. People die and get into awful situations and tragic circumstances all the time, and because there's so many of them, some people just believe it's coincidence, but other people believe it's because a curse has been put on the family. Now, one situation that I do really want to draw in on, because people think that because of this situation there's like a karmic thing that's been put on this family because of the actions that took place. Now, JFK had a sister called Rosemary. I feel like she was probably the least known Kennedy, and I think they did try and like keep her out of the limelight, tried to anyway. And basically Rosemary was a sufferer of mental health, and if this was nowadays, she would have probably been in therapy and she would have been talking to doctors, and you know, we would have explored different kinds of avenues. But the exploration that her father decided to take during those times was lobotomy. Lobotomy was basically this new thing that people had been brought out that could apparently cure people of their mental illness and all this kind of stuff, and it was a real stigma and taboo at the time. And so her father went ahead at the age of her being 23, and basically she was pinned down and given a lobotomy, and she was never the same again. She couldn't walk, she couldn't talk. Now before this, Rosemary had a lower IQ than the rest of the family. She wasn't really achieving highly or academically. She was suffering from behavioural issues that the parents couldn't cope with. And I really do feel that the dad was just embarrassed of her, and so he basically thought this was the best way to go. Obviously it wasn't. And it really is horrendous and traumatic and disgusting. Can you imagine? And she lived after that, and she was apparently awake through the whole surgery. And so some people do believe that the Kennedy curse is actually karma on the family for Joseph Kennedy deciding to give his daughter, well, have his daughter have a lobotomy. Apparently the mother never knew anything about it, but it's really tragic and awful. So I'm interested to hear what JFK thinks about the Kennedy curse. Is it true? Does he know anything more about it? Let's see. JFK first wants to draw me to his assassination, and he wants to kind of say that he's really come to terms with it. He's been passed over for a long time, but he just wants to really highlight the fact that he doesn't feel sad about it. He's not angry about it. He didn't know it was coming, but it wasn't shocking to him when it did happen. He does make me feel that there's more to that situation than meets the eye that we know of. He does say he had a lot of enemies within the White House. He's making me feel around the White House that, as we talk about curses and rituals and things like that, he does make me feel that there's a certain way that house works, and he basically makes me feel like there are a lot of ritualistic things that happen and a lot of organisational meetings that take place there, and he was very much not for that. So when he did go into the White House, he's making me feel that there are a lot of people that wanted to come in that he wouldn't allow. There are a lot of dark entities that he was very much aware of, and he just makes me feel like he really wanted to make a change, and there were people around him that really didn't want that to happen. And he's talking about the men in suits, and I've heard this saying more than once, and he's just saying that they did have something to do with the assassination. Okay, but he is saying again, there's no hard feelings. As a president, that is the risk that you take. He does make me feel like he would have done anything to improve and make his country a better place. And he's very passionate about America. He loved his home, he loved his country, he loved his people, and all he wanted to do was help the situation. The current situations of the country do really sadden JFK. He's quite disheartened by it, but he is always and forever hopeful. And I do feel like he was always a hopeful person. He's also a very peaceful person. I'm saying I did very questionable things, especially in my marriage, but I always did try and have everyone's best interest at heart. He does make me feel with him because, you know, he did have that kind of playboy energy. You know, he liked women, he liked to entertain, he liked to have fun. This was a man who was no stranger to having fun, and he does say that, you know, he has a very witty humour, and he loved to laugh, and he loved to be in high spirits. And he is saying, you know, I was no stranger to dabbling in, you know, things that weren't really great. He does make me feel like he had addictions to certain things like sex, women, attention. He's saying as much as I wanted to help other people, there are definitely things within myself that I needed to help as well. But I really did care for my people. One of the things that JFK really wants to home in on, and I'm going to start to pull some cards, is poverty and the poverty line, because he's saying that's one thing I really wanted to close the gap on. One thing that JFK really hated about himself and about the way he was brought up, because like I said, he came from a middle class family, he came from this like American dynasty dream family, and he said, I used to hate how much we had. And he's saying I was very aware of my privilege from a very young age, and I used to try and mix with different people and people from all different areas because I just wasn't a fan of the greed. And he was really like opposing to his father in that sense, because his father was all about the success, and he was like, yeah, well, I'm in this position, so I might as well do something good with it, you know. And he wanted to be the best. He wanted to be the best president because he had a competitive streak, you know, put into him from a young age. He was always put against his siblings. Like I said, there was 9 of them, but specifically his older brother, he was always put against them, you know, to be the best. You know, that was always, you know, what was in their household and what they were told. You know, you need to be the best at whatever it is you do. That's what they were always told. So he really had that about him, and he was quite a jealous person, I do feel like, in his marriage and things like that, but simply because, you know, he knew he was out there doing things he shouldn't have been doing. And he does say, you know, I was a jealous person. You know, he does say I always tried to treat my wife the best that I could, but I did slip up and I did make mistakes, and I was not perfect. And I think, you know, that's really what people kind of did like about me. I was an open book. And I was open to really being for the people, and he is saying I was and would like to be remembered as the people's president. And he's very honoured, he's saying, of the way that people still remember him. JFK, he's very honoured at the way that people still remember him, and the way that people still think of him and still call him their president. He does feel that the country has gone backwards. He makes me feel as well that he would have liked to have signed off a lot of new bills, like free healthcare, free childcare, free education. He really wanted to really help the poor. He's saying, you know, the people that couldn't afford what he could afford. He didn't ever see that as fair. He's very much for equality, I know that anyway. He very much believed that all people should be treated the same, and he still doesn't. So it really does sadden him, like, the fact, you know, that racism is still alive, the fact that, you know, the poverty and the difference between poverty and richness is still huge. You know, that really bothers him. That really does bother him still. Okay. JFK. Oh, there's a 1 over. I'm not surprised to see that there at all. Okay. JFK. Okay. Yeah, a lot of passion here. A lot of swords and wands cards. Okay, there we go. There's the generosity, the charity. He was very much, okay, there we go again. Yep, okay. He's like, do you want more? Okay, so yeah, he was very much for the people, and he loved to party. He showed me himself at like aristocrat dinners and like rich dinners, and he's like, don't get me wrong, I loved the luxuries that came with being well off and came with being rich, but did I know that it wasn't fair? Did I know that it wasn't right, that, you know, while I was out here having these amazing dinners, that there were people on the street starving? Absolutely, I knew that was wrong, and I really wanted to do something to change that. I really wanted to really rectify that situation. He really was all about peace, equality, justice, making things better. He wanted to make, he's just keep saying to me, I wanted to make the country a better place. And the 4 of Swords is about resting, recuperation, healing. But as I draw close to that card, he wanted to bring peace to the country. Now, bear in mind, at the time JFK came to presidency, the country was in a similar state as to what it is now. You know, racism was really heightened and alive. We were dealing with civil rights, all of that kind of stuff, and he knew that what was happening was wrong. He was very, very much aware of that. Now, he was a younger person coming in, Page of Wands, that's about youth. His passion and everything was young. He still had so much to learn. He was saying, when I got into the White House, I was way over my head, but I was ready to get stuck in. He was saying there was a lot about it that I didn't know. There was a lot about presidency that I didn't like. And there was a lot that I wanted to do that I could not do. He wanted to basically get in there and just change everything, you know, but he came up against a lot of opposition. Again, he's saying I was very aware that a lot of people didn't like me, especially within the White House. I had a whole different way of thinking about things. He's saying I had a whole different way of approaching things. You know, I really was A, for the people, B, for the youth. I really cared about the future of our country and the children and the teenagers and the young adults. That was me. That's what I represented. I feel like that's why people voted me in. He's also saying I cared about women and I cared about equality for women because I loved women. Again, he actually talks to me a lot about women. I feel like women really impacted him and had a lot of influence on him as he came up as a president. And he's saying I was just so ready to go, and he's actually openly saying I don't feel like there's been anyone like me in that White House since I left, and I think we've got a way to go before that happens again, but he does make me feel that that will happen again. And he's drawing me to a young man, quite a young man. This man feels like, again, early 30s. He feels like early 30s. Now, obviously, he is drawing me to the next election. It's not going to be the next election. But maybe the election after that, he does make me feel like that's going to be a real turning point for the country. And there's a real... there's a man to come up with the same kind of energy as JFK that people are just going to love. I feel like vibrance, they love his passion, they love his care, he feels genuine. And people are going to really love him. Now, I don't know if he will run for presidency, but he will definitely have something to do with politics. He draws me to the next election. He draws me to Joe Biden, and he does make me feel that Joe Biden will win. He really does feel that it was a travesty that Trump ever got into the White House, and he's saying it was a really upsetting day for our country that happened, and our country has gone backwards completely. Now, he really loves America. Now, I don't know if that's coming through. We know that, but he's very much, you know, he's very patriotic, very for his country. That's what he wants to talk about. You know, he's very, very passionate about his country. And he's saying, you know, when I came in, we need that young energy that I had, that spirit, that care, that hope for the future. You know, we're dealing with someone in President Trump who's 70 years old, very old in his ways, very traditional, isn't open-minded, doesn't care what people think. He's saying I was more open-spirited, more open-minded. I cared what people had to say. I welcomed people into the White House who were from diverse and different backgrounds. I wanted to mix with the people. I wanted to change. Donald Trump didn't want to change, he wanted to reverse, and that's definitely not what our country needed. And he's all for, you know, he just loves America. And as we move on to the next cards, we've got the Ace reverse, and it's tied to the Six of Pentacles. One of the things, honestly, that really upsets JFK is the fact that he did not get to change the financial state of the country. He really makes me feel that that's really what he wanted. He wanted to make more job opportunities for people in poverty. He wanted to make more educational opportunities. Like I said, he wanted to close the gap. He wanted to close the gap between those who had money and those who didn't. He really wanted to make it a more equal place to live. And America still needs that. He's saying there's too much of a gap in the society. There's too much of I have this and they haven't got anything, and you know, it shouldn't be like that. We should all have equal measures. He's saying it so doesn't surprise me what is happening in the world, because he's saying I tried to talk to people about climate change and things when I was actually president and nobody wanted to hear me. But he's actually saying, despite people's beliefs, experience isn't what you really need, it's passion and it's care, and that's something he had. And the reason the Ace of Wands is upside down is because Ace of Wands talks about our missions, our passions, our cares. He didn't get to complete his. He's saying it's okay, I don't feel away, you know, I don't feel resentful about it. You know, he's saying that everyone passes in their own time and he is okay with his passing. But he is saying there's, of course, much more I would have liked to do. And as it's tied to the Six of Pentacles, which is the generosity card when it comes to money, this is the giving card, this is the charitable card. He's saying I would have liked to have done so much more in terms of finances and helping the poor, and I had so many plans that took so much longer because so many people stood in my way. The next two cards do confirm that had he have lived, he would have gone on to be very successful in doing that. JFK was all about that. Okay, he was all about equality. He really does draw me to money and make me feel like with finances, he really wanted to make a difference when it comes to finances. And what he's saying, you know, he is well known for saying, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And he is still coming through for that. It is a really kind of like power to the people thing with him. You know, he is saying, you know, lend a hand where you can, give money where you can, share. You know, be responsible for one another, don't divide yourselves up, you know, together we stand. He's saying America still has a very, very long way to go. He does, again, like I said, he does make me feel like Joe Biden will become president. He's saying Joe Biden is going to have a very difficult time, because he's saying a lot of people are expecting him to go in there and again instantly make changes. And I feel like that's why he's talking about this now, because he's saying if you think that changes can take place overnight in the White House, he's saying just look at myself and look at Obama, it's not possible. And what happens is every time one of us gets in there that wants to do good, we're followed by someone who doesn't, and they unravel all of our work. He's saying, and this is exactly what happened to me. He's saying it's exactly what happened to Obama. And if Joe Biden gets in and he's followed by someone who doesn't, you know, believe in democracy and believe in equality for everyone, then they're going to undo all of his work. He's saying so it has to be a journey of love for our country. We have to think what's right for all and not what's just right for us. He's very passionate about it, so he's just coming through all of this. He's like, you know, we have to make change, and that includes you as an individual. We've talked about this before. So many of the great leaders that I've read for have said this, you know, it's all about you, as much as it is about you giving authority over to someone else. You know, you vote, you make the changes, you change in your community, you do what you can, because every little piece and puzzle builds up to a bigger picture. Okay. Whew. Okay, so I feel like these two cards are really representative of JFK's energy. So Three of Wands, that's that self-expression card, creative, energized, ready to you know, take on what life throws at him. And it's tied to the Knight of Cups, which again is about love. JFK was a man who he loved to love women, and he is making me feel like as much as he loved his wife, I don't feel like she was the only woman he ever loved. He fantasized about women, he loved women. He doesn't really make me feel that. He loved partying, he loved life, he loved being a leader, he loved just he loved his life. That's what he wants to say, really. He loved his life and everything he did get to achieve, and I feel like that's why he's not too bitter. As I talk about his assassination, he's not bitter about it. He's saying, well, I knew that people didn't like me. There was more people involved than the person that was arrested. He's saying, I am not surprised when it happened. You know, I should have seen it coming. In hindsight, I should have been more protected, but I'm okay because I did make an impactful change. He would have liked to have done more, but he's okay with the impact that he made. Now, as we draw to a close on JFK, he is just asking the American people to stay hopeful, to stay loving, you know, don't be disheartened at, you know, things that are to come, because he's saying there's still a few more hurdles to come along the way. He's saying there is a victory to come for the people, but we still have hurdles to cross, and he's just saying to keep your heads up, held high. I can't describe to you how much this man loves his country. Now, I do just want to pull on the curse and ask him about the curse, and he's kind of laughing. Let me tell you, JFK had an amazing sense of humour. He was very witty, very sarcastic. He loved to laugh. He loved to have a good time. He had a very vivacious energy. Like I said, very charming. Women loved him as much as he loved women. And he is laughing about the curse because he's saying, oh, the hex. He's making me feel that it was joked about within his family as well, because they, obviously when he was alive, he'd seen a fair few of passings and things that had happened. He's saying he personally doesn't believe in hexes and curses and things like that, or even what I do. You know, he's saying I wasn't really that kind of person. As open-minded as I was, I would have sat down and definitely spoken to someone like you, as I am. He's saying, but I definitely didn't indulge in it. He's saying, do I believe that someone could have definitely put a hex on our family? Definitely. He's talking about his father, and he's saying, and I'm just going to pull 3 cards on this. He's talking about his father, and he's saying that his father really didn't care to piss people off. He's saying, let's see, the Kennedy curse. Yeah, that is so interesting. I really do feel with this Kennedy curse that there was a hex put on this family, and I don't feel like I need to even pull anything more actually than that card, because it's very interesting that that card came over. As I pick up on this curse, I am drawn to a woman with dark hair, which is really interesting because the Queen of Pentacles has dark hair in this picture. The Queen of Pentacles talks about our home life, our domestic situation. Represents earth signs, so that's all about home life and things like that. I really feel that his father, who, you know, I don't know whether he had affairs or anything like that, but I feel like he did have an affair with a woman who was a witch. And I feel like there was some kind of heartbreak with her from him, and I feel like she did hex the family. Now, I feel like, as this is the Queen of Pentacles, there was something to do with money involved with Joseph Kennedy, who was JFK's father, and this woman. I feel like he may have paid her off to keep her quiet, but I feel like she was very much into, like, not even black magic. I feel like she was a white witch, but I feel like she definitely dabbled in spells and hexes and curses, and I do feel like she did put a hex on this family. I'm trying to tap into whether this hex can be broken, because this is, you know, this family has seen tragedies up until very, very recently. I don't know the dates of the passing, but I'm pretty sure it was Bobby Kennedy's grandchildren who recently passed away in tragic circumstances. So this is going on even till today, but she makes me feel that, oh, I just feel like this woman carried a baby. I feel like this woman carried a baby but didn't go full term with the pregnancy, and she was paid to be quiet. And so I feel like it's like a hex that she put on of his children and his, because he didn't die tragically, I don't think, Joseph Kennedy, but his grandchildren and his children definitely have, and their spouses. And I feel like because she may have carried the child, she had a real bitterness towards his children, his grandchildren, and I just feel like there was something she placed on this family. Now, I don't know if this spell can be broken, I'll be honest. but I do definitely feel it's in place. JFK, he's just like, okay. He's just like laughing like he does not believe in this at all, but here we are. That's what I pick up on, that's what I feel. Now, his message really to the American people, I am just going to pull 3 simple answers cards. I just feel really with him, he wants you to keep hopeful. He wants you to know that a new day is coming, that a new presidency is coming, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, but he does also want you to know that we're not at the end of the situation yet. Okay, let's see. Please give me 3 cards. Please give me 3 cards on what you'd like the American people to know. Please give me 3 cards on what you'd like the American people to know. Okay. Please give me 3 cards on what you'd like the American people to know. Please give me 3 cards. 1 more card, sorry. Okay. I'm not surprised to see any of those cards. I'm not surprised to see any of these cards, okay? JFK wasn't a spiritual man, but he definitely held belief and faith. And he was definitely about uniting and people coming together. And so although this does say connect with your soul family, I just feel this means that the country needs to come together again. This is all his reading. He wanted this really to be about America, about, you know, America raising its vibrations and, you know, being hopeful, staying positive, keeping hope alive, having faith, believing that change is going to come for the better. Because that's all he wanted. He just wanted change for the better, and he still holds that, and he's still trying to sprinkle that magic over the country. But he is saying that we're better together. We're better together. United we stand. He's saying we are better together. Please don't be divided by other people's opinions. If someone says something to you and you don't agree, treat them with love. You know, you don't have to come back and bite back and be nasty or say, you know, horrible things. You can be open, you can disagree lovingly. You can be open to disagreeing with an open heart. And at the heart of it, he's saying give yourself the best. He's really someone that wanted to invest in people. Like I said, he really wanted to help the poor get richer and the rich to understand the poor. He really wanted to bring communities together. He was really all about that. And so what he's saying with this is, you know, invest in yourself, lift yourself up. Be kind to yourself, be good to yourself, because, you know, that's how you make a difference. That's how you make a change. The way you treat yourself is the way you go on to treat others. And he's very much for that. Again, this is a man of peace. He just, honestly, he really wanted to, he saw the injustices in the world. He really did see them. And he wasn't forceful, and he wasn't like, you know, coming in like, we must do this. He was very gentle with his approach, actually. And like, he was very light-hearted. He did laugh a lot about things. He did make jokes a lot about things. He was very sarcastic because he wanted to just be a person. He didn't want there to even be this divide between the president and the people. He wanted it to just all be one. And he would have thought, he's saying, I would have thought that today we would have got to that point, but there we are. Again, he's drawing me to this young boy in the future that is still to come. He is again talking about the presidency after the next presidency, which he does make me feel will be Biden. And he is saying that there is a hope for the future, but he is saying that we need to get someone young and youthful into that White House. So please, if you're out there and you're watching and you want to get into politics, now's the time. But I am very honoured, very grateful, and very happy to have read for JFK today. I do hope you've enjoyed this reading, lovelies. Remember, if you're in America, keep your heads high, have faith, stay hopeful. JFK wants you to know that change is coming. It may not happen overnight, but if we keep on powering through with positivity, then it will be there. I thank you so much for being with me today, and I will see you soon for another reading, lovelies. Bye.